For me personally, like the supports have a really big impact.
The support is more powerful early games and AD carries. It's more about champions.
Like that any pick that can just like insta-burst any AD carry.
Flash Tibbers onto Shook. Shook's taken very low. He's going to get dropped. J-Re now. Stand United being used. That's going to save the day. Culling comes out. Not enough damage.
Support is roaming much more and he has more aspect on the game.
He's actually going to be low. Gets a good turn up. He got it! Oh, through the wall. Diamond goes down as well.
If you do a good ultimate with Leona or a good hook with Thresh, you can win the fight alone.
He's going to get caught out there. Try and turn it back around on towards Peke. The hook on Reckless. They're going to follow through. The flame come through. Brilliant gun. Kraton off the side. He's just taking them down one by one. A triple kill comes through Kraton. But what a setup from J-Re.
Sometimes I carry. It's a big difference from the last season.
Of course, can carry every time. It doesn't matter.
Maybe some games.
Edward going to get caught out here by Candy Panda. He actually turns the damage around, and this is a support against the AD carry. Edward going low, he's going to fall. No, he actually got the kill before falling from that one. That's the support, folks.
Welcome back, everyone. Joe Miller has joined me, and we are also joined by Forgiven from the Copenhagen Wolves, who had an immense game versus Millennium. Congratulations. Start off by telling us what the plan was going into Picks and Bans.
We expected from Gerb to go on Fizz, and our team is very experienced lane swapping, so particularly against assassins like Fizz. And so we lane swapped against Gerb, trying to shut him down, but I think he shared experience in blue camp, and then he was like even ahead in levels than us, and we couldn't shut him down properly. And this resulted in giving our counter a bit of an not nice experience against him.
What about that lane swap? Because Kautar had a few problems in the bottom lane. Aranea was there 2 or 3 times over and over trying to keep him shut down. Was that a big problem in the early game? Is that why you started to fall behind?
It was particularly my fault, maybe, and our mid lane swap, because we let Kautar against a Fizz under leveled and under farmed, and so Kautar couldn't do much. Like he did the best he could, I just believe. And can you repeat after the question?
Yeah, just the early game. Is that why you fell behind initially because of that?
Yeah, and particularly this resulted in us not having the dragon control we used to, at least in the first weeks of LCS, and then this resulted in being us behind in global content stuff. And so we were in a position, but we could only retaliate. We couldn't make our game.
So how did you manage to pull it back in your favor?
Well, we tried actually to compete in team fights, like we tried to make Millennium sort of making bad decisions, which like result in us taking, for example, 2-for-1 or 1-for-0 or things like this. And ultimately this led to the Baron buffs, which we actually managed to take. And then Kerp got caught again in mid lane. Like we just tried to make Millennium do mistakes. That's all we had to do.
Let's talk about the length of the game, because both you guys and Millennium are somewhat notorious for long, drawn-out games. In fact, I have to congratulate you mid through this question. 658 CS, a new record. That's a lot of fun, man.
I like creeps.
You like creeps a lot. You were saying before the interview that stemmed from the lane swap and how easy it is to farm in that scenario, but what is it about closing out games that you struggle with?
The first thing, as example, for an AD carry he has to do is just to put out maximum damage in a teamfight while I don't have to die. And I tried to help my team taking positions like this, taking targets onto me, like making them commit to 1 versus 3 or 1 versus 4. And then we proceeded on to sieging the towers because we had the advantage from Baron buffs and stuff like this. Unlimited caught people many times. We have to give credit to his Leona, I think, at this game. And so this resulted in us making good fights. Not the best, but we tried. We are a team that tries, and I think we will improve as the season continues.
So while we're on the topic of AD carries, we've heard some other guys saying AD carries can't do anything. Now, with 658 CS, can you do anything with your AD carry in that scenario?
I don't think I can judge that. I think it's up to the people that saw the game today. But in general, AD carry in this meta is a position that actually relies much in the team. Like it's more or sort of putting pressure on the map, being ahead and taking towers, objective stuff like this. It's not about like it was in Season 2 when you just picked Ezreal, you went 2-0 in the lane and then you stomped everyone.
So great result for you guys here today. Tomorrow you guys will be going up against Fnatic. Another one of those hyped carries in the beginning of the season was Reckless. How do you think you're going to match up against them?
We have screamed actually Fnatic was our main script partner some weeks before. We have played against them many times. I think if we have a 50-50 lane bot lane, we will win. But in general, if we play as a team, we can win a Fnatic. They are into a slump like 5 defeats or 4 in a row. They're a good team still. Like at least for me, they have my respect. I think they will manage to come back in general. They have to actually. But we have to expect a good fight.
So coming up next, we have ROC versus Gambit. Gambit are obviously with 4 completely different players, plus Edward, so they're not completely new for this week. But what do you think to Gambit right now, and how hard is it to play against a mixed team almost?
Gambit is actually a team that, even if we were the original 5 in this game, they don't care actually about much in the regular season. All that matters is what they do in the playoffs, as we always know. And particularly in the extreme matches or things like this when we win Asian teams. But in general, it will be actually strange for the ROC to play against a team that they haven't played before because it's only 1 people. Like, it's only Edward, I think, from the original team. So it will be strange. But if ROC are prepared for this match, they will win. That's my prediction.
Okay. Finally, maybe I heard there was something you wanted to say to your fans.
Yeah, can I say something Greek?
Go ahead.
Ευχαριστώ όλους τους Έλληνες που κάψαν και είδαν το game σήμερα.
Can you share with us what you said too?
Yeah, I thanked all the Greek people that actually stayed today late to see our games.
Hey, awesome. Congratulations once again for giving. Great game from you. And now let's head back over to D-Man and Quickshot for our next match.
Thank you very much, Shox. It is time for the next match. It will be Gambit facing off against ROC in a rematch of Week 2. This week, Gambit are having to use substitutes to fill their player roster after visa issues for Alexic, Diamond, and Darian. And Genja is also standing out because, well, his English skills are not really up to their task for the team changes they've had to play. So, standing in is Nukeduk and Zoro0 from Ninjas in Pajamas. Alongside him is Fury and Hulberto, who we've also seen subbing for Ninjas in Pajamas against Cloud9 last week in the Star Ladder.
Yeah, all of the players that have been drafted are absolute top-notch, and they're actually quite familiar with one another. As you've already said, all 4 of them have some form of experience together online, and Edward is the only Gambit member that will be competing here today. I want to touch on Zoro0. He's a player that has been touted as one of the best top laners, and he tried to play Mundo in 2 games during their Challenger Series final and really wasn't able to make a meaningful impact on the game. I personally am hoping that he switched to a slightly more aggressive, controlling champion here today because he's got such great skill, and I just don't feel like it's being expressed through Mundo.
And of course, we are on 4.1 this week, so he doesn't have to worry about any patch issues. He will actually get to play in the LCS at last. And of course, the last time these 2 teams did meet, it was one-way traffic for ROC. With Gambit changing their roster for this week due to the visa issues, this is surely one hell of an uphill battle from the start.
Yeah, what this means is there's going to be a lack of synergy, and they're going to be relying heavily on winning their lanes in order to avoid the mid to late game team fights are going to be incredibly tough because ROC are so strong. They're a team that has been practicing and playing together, whereas Gambit are going to have a lack of cohesion and a lack of practice that simply comes with time.
And of course, ROC are sitting at the top of the league right now. We mentioned at the start of the season how both Cloud9 and the Lemon Dogs shot through the promotion series. They went 3-0, and then they went on to top the league. And ROC, well, they appear to be doing the same thing. ROC have been continuing to grow stronger every time we see them. And let's not forget, they took down Gambit during Week 2 when Gambit were at full strength.
Yeah, during that Week 2 victory over Gambit, it was the first showing that ROC were the real deal and that they were giant killers. Jankos played Olaf and got his team off to an incredibly strong start. He went 4-0-8. I also want to highlight in that game that Edward's Kennen offered not really a lot. He was playing from behind. It's relevant because Edward's the only member from that game that's playing here today. I also just want to talk about how well ROC players are doing. Every single one of them is performing. There is no dead weight. They've got the highest team KDA in the EU LCS at 4.99. They've got the highest team gold per minute at 1,707. They hold the #1 KDA and gold per minute in 3 roles, in mid, jungle, and support. They've got 2 MVP winners over the 5 weeks, one of them being Overpower, one of them being Vander. And for me, this team is absolutely phenomenal. I think they've got a strong advantage going into any mid to late game team fight, but they cannot underestimate the surprise factor of Gambit's mixed team. Because they don't know what to expect from Gambit, they need to play maybe a little safer and a little more controlled.
Yeah, and of course I should point out that The team that's actually selected for Gambit was chosen by Edward. Edward's the only member of Gambit that is here, so it was down to him to choose who he wants. I kind of feel like that's putting pressure on Eddie from the rest of the guys that can't attend. It's like, well, it's up to you, mate. We're not there. It's your fault.
That's the truth. They'll be cheering from home, that's for sure.
They'll be cheering from home. We'll see how it works out. Let's check out those starting lineups. On the blue side, well, it is a very different Gambit gaming. In the top lane is Zoro0. In the jungle is Hulberto. In the mid lane is Nukeduck. Fury is the AD carry, and alongside him is Edward.
And of course, on the red side, it is ROC. Zazus up top, Jankos in the jungle, Overpower in the mid lane with Celevi and Vanda as your AD carry and support.
So what are we expecting coming into this game? And more to the point, what the hell are ROC expecting? Because they're not really sure how it's going to go. We heard from Zoro0 Nukeduck at the start saying they've literally had about 10 hours practice max together.
ROC has to play safe. I think ROC has to maybe avoid allowing champions to go through that they don't want to play against, and we'll see how that pans out for them.
And of course, with the rosters being so different this week, we felt we had to take a look at the mid lane matchup between Nukeduck and Overpower. And last time these faced each other in the promotion qualifiers when Nukeduck, well, he had next to no impact on the games in comparison to what Overpower did.
Yeah, Nukeduck actually picked Riven into Kayle in the deciding game versus Overpower. You look at their scores there. 4-3-9 and 8-4-12. That was back when Rocket were known as KMT. I want to highlight some of the champions that these guys are playing. In the past, we've been seeing Nukeduck running mostly assassins. Zed, Lulu, Fizz. Whereas for Overpower, we know he can play a multitude. He's played assassins. He's played the Yasuo, Kayle, Kha'Zix. We've seen him play Mordekaiser. He's got a lot more champions to play with. What we are also seeing from the numbers is average CS at 20 minutes is in favor of Overpower. So he's got slightly more stable mechanics in lane. Could also be a testament to the types of champions. He's less all-in assassin types.
So what do we think here? Are they going to go for bans maybe based on what, say, NIP have been playing? Because they're going to focus on Zoro0 and Nukeduck, the most popular players in that team? Or would they be looking at other advantages? I mean, look, we talked about the fact they played Starlighted the other week. There was 3 members in that Starlighted team. So they've got a lot of research they could use.
There is information to play with, and I think that if I were on the side of ROC, what I would be looking to ban in this game is champions that would interrupt my composition. Whatever their goal is to remove champions that would get in the way of that. We know that, for example, Edward's Annie has been particularly strong. I would try and remove that. On the same token, Vanda's Thresh has been terrifying. I would try either first pick that or even ban it if I were on the side of Gambit. And I think Kayle is definitely not going to make it through. I really feel like in this game, if Gambit do not ban Kayle or take it for themselves, they're giving one of Overpower's strongest champions to him. And it is on 4.1. So the changes to Q haven't come in yet.
And I wonder what sort of benefits Rocket are going to have from the fact that they've essentially taken a week off this week. They went back to Poland. They went back just a bit of leisure time, bit of rest and relaxation. They wouldn't focus so heavily this time around. Have they took the foot maybe off the gas a little too much? Or will it actually just boost them as a team? You know, the fact that they've hauled out that little bit of a break sometimes they need.
Yeah, there's a lot of options for them. I actually think that the additional time off may be good for ROC because they've got a lot of synergy. This is a team that's played together for a very, very long time, and they should be able to just fall into a comfortable space. You actually see that Kayle has been immediately taken off the table. That's no surprise to me at all. I'm very happy to see that Nukeduck has decided that he doesn't want to play against it. He doesn't have a counter that could potentially work.
Yeah, and in general, Kassadin taken away by the red side, almost a standard these days, has not really shown itself, as you mentioned, what was it, 48 games banned now, I believe it is, in the LCS in Europe alone.
This will be 49. 49 games featured in 49 out of 50. So, yeah.
They really don't like him, bless him. Pantheon banned out, taking that away from Jankos. No shock there. He has played fantastic on it. Renekton also taken away from Zoro0. Big champion for him. But Thresh taken away from Vanda. He was MVP last week on that champion. No shock there.
Rocket now decide, do they want to ban Elise or Annie? If they want to ban the Annie away, Vanda has played Morgana in the past. He can go to a comfortable pick. If they leave both of them open and ban something else, it means Rocket have maybe set their sights on one of those champions. So knowing that there's the big picks are still up and available, Trundle, for example, is still there. We'll see what they prioritize.
Well, Annie was the final ban for Rocket, taking that off Edward, and that means Elise is left open. The question is, does Hulberto want it straight away? We saw it first picked last game by Millennium, and this time around, it's going to be Gambit to take it.
Yeah, there's no real surprise on that pick. The strength of Elise is very, very good. The one thing that we need to keep our eye on now, though, is how does Gambit wrap the rest of their composition around this? Gambit are going to need to look for some form of initiation, and I expect that to be maybe a Leona, We've been hearing things that Edward has been playing some Leona in some scrims and in solo queue, so we got to keep that in mind as it is available. And I like the fact that ROC are looking at very strong picks, but they haven't locked them in just yet.
Jankos went 4-0-8 on that Olaf. He mentioned it earlier on. He is considering it, but actually going to leave it open. They don't need to go for it right now. Instead, they're going to go for that AD carry for Selavar, and that's going to take it away from Fury.
You took the words out my mouth. Because of the fact that Elise was locked in, there's no rush on securing that jungle champion. What it also does is it allows ROC to maybe even tailor the jungle pick depending on what the rest of Gambit locks in. If Gambit now start counting on the fact that, hey, Olaf is a consideration, maybe it allows ROC to counter pick that one. The Trundle and the Lucian, just super powerful picks. Lane bully is for the Lucian. Trundle, we've seen how effective it is, how we can scale into the late game. Youngbuck did phenomenal in the previous match, and I'm expecting Zaz to do similar.
Well, we see the Shyvana locked in. That's going to be for Zoro0. This surprises me because last week we saw Mima pulling out the Lissandra up against that Trundle, and we know from the summer of 2013, Zoro0 certainly can play that champion Lissandra.
Yeah, he definitely can. And I wonder if the thinking behind that is more to avoid going for double AP comp that requires a lot of synergy. In order for those compositions to work off, you've got squishier champions. It's more difficult to effect in a team fight. Gambit aren't going to have that level of calling or coordination necessarily. What I also like is Zoro0 is on a champion that can make an impact. Yes, Shyvana took some hits in this patch, but she's still going to bully Trundle, still going to be a split-pushing monster, and has the ability to disrupt the backline team fights of ROC.
Well, of course, Shyvana and Caitlyn were picked out there. We're just waiting for the final choices from ROC. It is Morgana and Lee Sin currently hovered over. And waiting to see, of course, Vandalife has played Morgana. 2 out of 2 so far. Could it be 3 out of 3? Lee Sin also locked in for Jankos.
I'm not surprised by that pick at all. Morgana is Vanda's #2 champion pick. Every time Thresh is either banned or first picked or taken away from him, he trains to it. What I like about the Morgana is you have got a fairly safe initiation power with that Dark Binding. It is a very long range route. And what I also like is the power that you have in terms of defending engages. When champions like Elise and Shyvana dive on you, you throw those Soul Shackles out, and it makes your team fight strength very, very powerful, allowing you to stay back, stay safe, and stun people up.
Well, my name Zed has been locked in for Nukeduck in this mid lane. It's a champion we saw played so successfully for Nukeduck during the summer of 2013 for Ninjas in Pajamas, and he's going to pull it out here up against Overpower.
I'm happy to see Nukeduck going onto an assassin champion. It is very powerful. It's also going to be able to get multiple kills here. Other than Trundle, everybody else so far for the ROC squad is actually very, very squishy. So there is kill potential, there is roam potential, and we've seen Zed fall a little bit out of favor, but he didn't necessarily lose a large amount of power. He still has the ability to just insta-give anybody with that death mark.
An interesting support pick as well. Lulu picked up for Eddie there. That's doing a dual purpose. That's taking it away from Overpower and also giving it to Edward.
Part of the reason for this is because of the amount of support bans. With the Thresh gone, the Annie gone, the only real alternatives was the Leona or the Lulu. And the Lulu's going to be a little bit more of a reactive pick. It also signals that Gambit have got an incredibly powerful split-pushing team. Shyvana can split push, Zed can split push, and they can allow themselves to go for like a 1-3-1 setup. If any team knows how to do that, or maybe how to play it or play against it, it's going to be ROC. It's what they've been doing many times.
Well, you say that, it may well actually be purposely picked into it because they know that's what they're expecting to come out from ROC. They know Zaz is going to be doing that. You can see teleport on him already, and we've seen Vanda doing it successfully before. With that, Ziggs finally locked in for him. It is a champion we haven't seen so heavily on him, but it's a champion they value highly.
The one thing I do want to remind everybody about Overpower Ziggs in particular, he was the first person that built that Spirit of the Spectral Wraith. He got himself 1,600 gold in bonus gold from that Spirit passive, farming up jungle camps. And if you are dealing with a split push team like a Shyvana, like a Zed in the mid to late game, Ziggs is one of the best champions, arguably the best champion at controlling those waves. Once again, reminder, this is 4.1, so the damage on his Hextech Minefield as well as his Mega Inferno Bomb is still dealing full damage to minions and creeps, which allows him to control the waves, control the tempo of those lanes incredibly. No super strong initiation from either of these teams in this particular match.
We'll see how this one develops. ROC, of course, top of the league, on a massive win streak. We'll see whether that gets stopped by Gambit, a team that they took down in week 2. And as the players ready themselves for battle, let's check in and see how you voted on this one. AnlalEsports.com, it says the numbers are 56% for ROCAT. So the fans are going with ROCAT.
So I think that a large portion of our fan base may not have been aware of the roster swaps up until this very moment, unless you're actually looking for the information.
Of course, yeah.
It was very late announced. I do not think that is a testament at all.
Well, it was leaked very early, but it was announced very late.
Correct, yes. Officially was not confirmed until quite literally about an hour before we went on air. I think ROCAT have got an immense advantage purely on communication, on calling, and on teamwork. They are a team. Gambit is a mix. Admittedly, multiple members of Gambit have played together online in different competitions, but I don't know if it's going to hold up, especially with Nukeduck on the stage. He's not got a good record.
Well, Eddie and Subs, apparently, is what the team is going to be called, so we'll see how that works out for them as we move into the game. Starting off for Game 2. It is going to be Gambit up against ROCAT. Gambit will be starting as the blue team, and ROCAT, of course, as the red team. We'll see how this one progresses, because well, Gambit, they could cause themselves a giant upset. And you know what? If they were to go and win 2-0 this week, what sort of pressure would that put on towards ROCAT?
It would be very, very big indeed. We do have to remind once again, like you touched on in the pregame, ROCAT did have a couple of days off leading up to this week. We've seen a feature on them as they were getting ready to move into their gaming house, and I believe now that they are starting to settle down. We'll see if the slightly less intense practice regime affects them in this game. But you do have to give them a massive advantage against this Gambit in Pajamas mixed team.
The Gambits in pajamas. What sort of pajamas would they be, I wonder? Some sort of Russian red pajamas. It'd have to be the red swag outfit of Darian, sure.
No doubt in my mind. That would be the ideal situation for them. As we see, once again, defensive start from both of these teams, covering the entrances to their lanes, and we're not seeing anything super fancy happening. I really want to watch the duo lanes matchup because it's two supports we don't often see against each other.
Ironically, you mentioned that, the fact that they are like that, but I should point out, Alex has actually been caught out a couple of times in this level 1 and been first blooded. Gambit themselves, is it 9 out of 12 games they've given up first blood, I believe? It's a crazy stat for Gambit. And look what's going on here. They have 3 members down the bottom tribush.
I wonder if they want to go for the blue invade or if they're trying to set up a kill. Hilberto right now, along with Fury and Edward, have grouped up very nicely. Volatile spiraling for vision, and they're just going to steal this blue buff away. We do also see that Zoro securing his own blue buff. That's going to make life for Zaz so difficult in the top lane once Zoro returns there, thanks to all that cooldown reduction.
Zoro, of course, he's going to take that blue buff for Willie. He's struggling out on it here. He may or may not take this blue buff down if it lands a couple more crit hits. Will he get it? Oh, it's so low, but he gets it just in the end there. He will, of course, back away, and he'll return full health and level 2.
All in caps, calculated from Zoro. Definitely tried that one a few times before. Didn't want to give up a kill to a big mob. He's going to return to lane with a decent XP, and as I said, for the next couple of minutes, along with that cooldown reduction, could apply a lot of pressure to Zazas. Thanks to the fact that Hilberto was able to steal the blue buff from Jankos, it's also going to delay him getting to level 3, level 4, and going for any sort of double buff invade. So very good play from Gambit, showing because of the fact that they don't necessarily have the strongest late game team fights. They've worked and they've thought about their early game decision making.
Well, of course, you know, the fact is it brings a bit of innovation that sometimes you may not see from Gambit. Despite the fact they are one of the most innovative teams, we actually haven't seen that for quite a while during the LCS from Gambit themselves. Should also point out Zoro started out with that Doran's Blade instead of the Doran's Shield, which generally the top laners would go for. We'll see how that develops at the moment. Of course, he does mean he fell behind in terms of CS, but you can't really count that because he got that blue buff gold.
And also because of the fact that Shyvana's going to do fairly well against Trundle in these early stages of the game, the early laning phase, Zoro should be able to make this up and potentially even punish Zazos. Zoro's going to be able to invade the jungle of ROCAT, get some vision downs, and maybe even go for some double golem steals, which is what we've seen Shyvana's do many, many times in the past. The interesting matchups between here is going to be seeing how Nukeduck deals with Overpower. If Nukeduck is able to get onto Overpower Ziggs, there is kill potential at 6 because, yes, Ziggs is going to have that satchel charge to try and distance them, but Nukeduck can just follow it through with a well-tamed Deathmark. So a lot of pressure on Nukeduck to outplay Overpower if he wants to go for kills.
Nukeduck on that Zed. can go very aggressive on Overpower. Overpower's definitely going to play this one at a long distance because he doesn't want to get caught out by that Z, especially when he hits level 6. As it stands at the moment, quick 90 caliber net and Piltover. Peacemaker catching on towards Sullivan. Sullivan himself, we haven't heard from so far on the interview desk. It's not through lack of trying, he's just not put himself out there really willing to when you've got the likes of Vanda and Jankos in your team just stealing the limelight from him. And yet, we should really highlight the fact that Sullivan has been one of the shining lights for ROC. He's really not put a foot wrong in any of the team fights.
No, Sullivan's positioning and decision-making in all stages of the game is absolutely superb. And I actually think it's in part due to the fact that he's got such great synergy with Vanda. They work very well together. They always seem to hold even or even win their lanes. And we'll see what Alberto can do from behind.
We do see the Dark Shield going on towards him. Will it be enough, that Black Shield? No. Cocoon will not land because, well, that was an easy dash out from Sullivan. No ability powers used.
Just the relentless pursuit from Sullivan. Manages to dodge the skill shot, gets away. Even if the Glitter Lance had connected from Edward, Lucian is well equipped. He can get rid of any slows thanks to his E. So it's going to be difficult for Gambit to get kills unless they get the jump on Sullivan and Vanda. And that's also going to be compounded by the Black Shield. It blocks single target CCs and magic damage. It's an interesting lane because it's very poke heavy from both sides, and I almost feel like it's going to become very farm-based because both teams are well equipped to deal with their opponents. So we'll see how Fury and Salivar deal with the next couple of minutes.
Lots of pings down that bottom lane. Jankos was showing himself down there, but they have the vision of Alberto, who has started out pretty well here. He went aggressive early on, get that Spirit Stone out there with the boots, so he's ahead in farm over Jankos right now. Or well, in terms of CS, you see it looks differently, but the fact that he went and got that blue buff and stole it away does tell us he's going to have that gold advantage over Jankos right now. Vanda throwing out that Dark Binding, not going to land it on towards Fury. Fury is a player we've not seen a great deal of. This is the first showing, of course, in the LCS. Some of you guys may not have seen him before. He was going to stand in for Ninjas in Pajamas during the second promotion playoff when Zoro0 forgot to patch.
Yeah, so he was going to stand in and play, and as we said already, Fury has got experience with the members of Ninjas in Pajamas. We'll see how he performs. As it stands, he's got a small CS lead over Salivar. However, the wave is pushing towards Salivar, so he'll get close up. Vanda is in a little bit of trouble. Can't get slowed by Glitter Lance, and Edward fired that way too soon.
Yeah, just showed his hand right there, and Vanda quite happy to just stroll on down, put on that Black Shield, and just walk on back, knowing that Edward really could do nothing against him. We do see Vampire Acceptor being picked up, Dark Binding flashing past Edward. Sullivan was the one that went back and bought that. We'll see how that progresses because that's going to give him the advantage in Fury. Well, he's trying to buy himself some time to back away here. You can see he's going to back off. We'll see whether ROC push or stay.
Yeah, Vanda's giving himself a big psychological advantage in this lane. He's pushing onto both Fury and Edward, throwing down that Black Shield as often as possible to reduce the damage, but he hasn't landed a Dark Binding, which has allowed Salivar to deal damage yet. We'll see if he does connect. Jankos is going to get his first taste of Invade right now as Alberto is going to be sandwiched. Blue, but the red goes to Alberto.
Alberto gets it, but it's a 3-on-1. Wow, big power damage straight away onto him. No problem there for Overpower. Quick first blood.
Nukeduck just responded too late. We've seen him moving to the mid lane, but he simply didn't get there in time. And Gambit, they made the invade. Alberto started that one off. Zoro0 was low on HP, and thanks to Overpower just getting in there very quickly, easy first blood for ROC and the red buff secured for Nukeduck. So this is going to allow him to put even more pressure on Nukeduck in this lane.
The problem is Zoro0 was already low. The Subjugate had already been used by Zaz as the ultimate for Trundle in that top lane, so really didn't want to get involved in it. We do see the Dragon's Descent being used by Zoro0, just pushing that lane, trying to get on towards Zazas, trying to force him back so he can buy himself some time to back away. We did see Zazas, of course, went back very early on, got himself Doran's Blade along with that shield, being the proper warrior in the top lane. Blue buff going across to Overpower. This time around, it is going to be ROCats.
So blue buff secured. We got a lot of members pulled up for that one. You actually see both Sullivan and Vando came up from the bottom lane, even though they were farming up that white. And we're looking for a kill. Nukeduck is going to get some poke onto Overpower. That's actually very good damage, landing both that Shadow Slash as well as the Shadow Shuriken. Works in his favor.
Well, when you do walk straight past that Living Shadow, it's kind of opening yourselves up for that damage. We did see Fury going back, just dodging out that Dark Binding once again. He picked himself up a BF sword, so he's got a lot of damage in this lane phase, and he's going to need it up against Sullivan.
It's going to give him an advantage right now because of the fact that Sullivan doesn't actually have the same amount of on-hit damage, but as it stands, it is just a very farm-heavy lane between the two of them. Nukeduck is just going to grabbed himself that blue, waited for his E to come off cooldown. Again, just slightly slower lane phase. We talked in the pregame how I feel that if Gambit do not actually grab themselves a strong advantage in the laning phase, I really don't see them out-rotating or out-team-fighting ROC. So we need to see what Halberta's going to do. He's invaded blue, worked out. Invaded red, gave up first blood, and now Halberta's just sat back in lane. On the same token, Jankos has been just a farmer right now. He hasn't gone for any ganks.
ROC starting it slow up against a Gambit team. You know, in the lane phase, it doesn't matter really who is in the team. If they are strong in lane, it's when they pull together as a team. That's when the teamwork may well start being a little bit different between these two. So don't read too much into this lane phase. We're expecting it to actually go fairly even because despite the fact it's 4 substitutes, these are all very highly skilled substitutes.
Yeah, and talking about the players, Zoro0 has now grabbed himself a small CS lead over Xazus. He's got himself that Bilgewater Cutlass, so if he decides to play aggressively now, he could actually jump onto Xazus and apply some kill potential with the use of that Ignite. Vander, can he connect with the Dark Binding? No, he cannot. And Jankos is going to be forced to back away. That minion, very unhappy with his damage right now.
Flash ulti coming out there is not going to pull off though. Instead, they're all going to back away. He's going to try and go in. Jankos could not get the other side of Edward there, quickly using that wild growth to keep him away.
So one flash next, they've got Edward now.
Oh, Dark Binding this time didn't land, but the kick did, and Edward's going to get taken low. One more shot should do it. Celiva takes the kill.
Very well played. Edward should not have gone in that quickly. I think he wasn't anticipating the re-engage from members of ROC and was forced to... He just gave up a kill. The one thing that was smart from ROC is they burned 1 flash from Vander for 2 from Gambit. Now, all of a sudden, Halberta's moving to the top lane. They want to dive Xazus.
Zoro0 taking very low, though. He can't tank this one out. That's going to be a Mega Inferno bomb coming in. He just dodges out of it. Doesn't quite get the shot. The tower's not landed on him. Halberto quickly repelled away and tanked that one out. Very nicely combined by Gambit.
And that is how you punish a Trundle in lane. When you have a champion that can get kills, has an Ignite, and is able to get damage down, you combo out with your jungler, get a kill onto Xazus. The minions should also even take this tower out, and that is a very good swing now for Gambit.
And just going back towards that bottom lane, I wonder if Edward was simply caught out by the fact that Vander had put all the points in towards that Dark Binding. He's literally thrown everything in towards it, 4 points on it as the support. Maybe he wasn't quite expecting the cooldown to be as quick as it is. Eddie's going to go down, ward out that dragon. And it's a good start for Gambit, despite the substitutes.
Yeah, the fact they've got the tower down against Xazus is going to open up that area of the map. I do expect Zoro0 to begin to try snowball that lead further. He's got a 30 CS lead, 25 or so CS lead, got a kill, got the tower, and we talked about how we can invade in the jungle of ROC. Now what he needs to do is pull Halberto and Nukeduck with him. The rest of them, however, they've decided to go for Dragon. This is actually a very smart call. There's no one from ROC that can respond quickly enough, and it doesn't even look like they're going to challenge for this one. Another objective for Gambit.
So, Gambit continue that gold lead, taking that first Dragon down and continuing the Gambit style, really, taking that first objective. So, again, though, as you just pointed out to me, Overpower of that Spirit of the Spectral Ray.
So he's going to once again go for the sustain, get some of that HP back from killing off monsters in the jungle. And what we did see from ROC the last time they went for this mid laner and that itemization is they just went for the mega late game. Got to the point that Overpower was 6 items and then sold it. And this is the trade. Xazus is going on Zoro.
Well, he's already used that Bilgewater Cutlass on him. Zoro0 has one himself, hasn't popped that ultimate, and he's just waiting for Xazus to go a little bit lower. Does have a ward down, so he knows that Jankos is around that red buff area at the moment, so knows that he's safe, but he will back off.
Zoro0 may have been trying to bait out the Subjugate, because the moment Zoro0 throws down Dragon's Descent in the Dragon's form, it's going to make Subjugate more powerful. He's going to gain more resistances and steal more away from Zoro. So if Zoro can force Xazus to use it early in a fight, and then follow it up with Dragon's Descent, Zoro can win a trade or a fight that way. So it's just going to be a timing on who can get your opponent's ultimate first.
So let's look towards that mid lane. Overpower and Nukeduck. Overpower very low on mana here. Trying to keep him at bay. Built perfectly in towards this lane matchup. Nukeduck was just hovering up there, keeping vision of Jankos, making sure he doesn't join that fight too early. And Overpower, well, he's waiting for his blue buff. Frankly, he wants Jankos to come down and get things started.
Yeah, going to be able to grab this one for himself. I also want to touch on the fact that Overpower's got the makings of an hourglass, so he's going to work his way towards some form of defense against Nukeduck's Deathmark. We're also going to see Celavar going towards a Quicksilver Sash at some point to, once again, get rid of that death mark. So we find ourselves in a situation where the blue team has a little bit of a timer on the board. We do see Dragon's Descent. That's Zazz in trouble.
Instant subjugate, turn back around though, and Zoro may well be in trouble. We do see a good pillar of ice. Zazz is going to back away. He's waiting for the timing to run out on both of these ultimates. Zoro, as soon as he gets that burning agony, burnout back available. He will chase on towards Edwards and Corlick once again. He's in trouble. It should be enough to take him down. Wild Growth was popped and Celavar's taken low. Oh, Piltover doesn't quite land. Ace in the hole's going to come through, but it only goes on Jankos. Good kick from Jankos, keeps them all at bay.
Very well played. Both Vander and Jankos are moving behind. Now Nukeduck wants to pick a fight. The satchel charge was used. Nukeduck decides against it. He had his death mark available, has got a lot of damage, but has not looked to make a kill on Overpower. And we talked about that bottom lane synergy between Vander and Celavar. They ate the ace in the hole, managed to get away, and the wild growth from Edward kept him alive. If he was a different champion, probably would have gone down.
May well have gone down. We'll see how it continues to develop down this bottom lane. Just 1,000 gold separating these two teams. Of course, Gambit did pick up the first tower and the first dragon, or Gambit in pajamas, we're going to call him for this one, Gip.
I like that. We should have got the overlay guys to update the graphics. Just before we went into the game, we were discussing how the pace of the previous game was particularly tempered, and I feel that
that's one word I'd use for it.
We're in for another one right now. Overpower, we said already, he wants to play passive. I don't think he wants to be in a position where he can get killed by Nukeduck, and he's going to use the range and his pushing power to his advantage. What we have seen from Rocket, though, is a clear focus on dealing with this Edward and Fury lane. They finally grabbed themselves a turret to even out the turret kills, but Jankos has repeatedly ganked this bottom lane.
Well, it is the middle lane that may well be the next focus. Nukeduck and Alberto hovering around there, going to come in, try and get some damage down on there. We will see Overpower returning, so quickly wipe out that way, throws out the mines, the pack, everything available, and force them back from that turret. Bottom lane, again, we see Vander backing off. Celavar's on his own right now, and it's down for Gambit to try and shove on that tower. Of course, Rocket already taken that bottom one on their own, and they're just going to play it safe.
So just very interestingly, in terms of Overpower's Spirit of the Spectral Wraith, he's already given himself a bonus 180 gold. To draw comparisons to the junglers, if you look at Alberto, he's grabbed 200 bonus gold from his Spirit of the Ancient Golem, and on the other side, Jankos 220. You see Jankos getting caught out by Nukeduck there. Part of the reason Overpower can get so much bonus gold is he allows it to stack up. He's not continually killing large monsters, so he's always going to have that the maximum bonus gold that he can get, and allows him to, you know, stay even and grab himself to a quicker 6-minute build. I think we hit it at about 35 minutes the last time I seen it. I'm straining my memory here.
Well, we're up to level 12 and we're still yet to see Nukeduck going all in, biding his time up against Overpower. We've seen him doing this before, I feel. Not to great success. We'll see how it develops for him. Zoro Zero himself, he's coming around, going to try and take away those golems, but Zazz has other ideas and tries to force him away and just continues out to farm it. But Zoro Zero really is starting to put on a farming session here. This is, again, hesitant to say, something we've seen before.
Yeah, Zoro Zero is going to go in on Zazz though.
Dragon Descent being used, but Zazz will just back away. Didn't use his Subjugate. He has got it available. He's just trying to buy time. Overpower flashes past the ward. Now Zoro Zero realizes what's happening. He's going to back away.
It's so difficult to catch a Shyvana with that burnout. Her movement speed is so high. Even though Zazz has got that Pillar of Ice, it's not actually going to be enough to really hold Zoro in place long enough. What we are seeing from both of these teams, though, is that the Dragon is now up. You see both of them moving towards the position. Rocket are going to be aware of the time, and they're going to get themselves in a position to challenge for this one. Bloodthirster and Greaves are completed for Celavar. The Hourglass has been completed for Overpower. So the kill potential from Nukeduck is already significantly lowered. So Nukeduck has missed this opportunity where he could have gotten kills, and we'll see how he decides to play out these next few minutes.
Well, pick wards were picked up by Rocket. There's one being used. Gambit trying to clear this one out, but Rocket want to fight it. Teleport coming in on towards the Death Bush, but ward, you can see Nukeduck getting caught out. Satchel charge. Nukeduck's going to get taken down. Now they go in, straight on towards it. Dragon still yet to go down. Jankos will secure that one. Zoro Zero having to flash away from this one, and now it's going to be Alberto focused on Darkbind. He will not catch on him, and he will back away. 2 kills and a Dragon.
That is exactly what we talked talked about, yeah, from the side of ROCCAT. Because of the fact that they have slightly better communication and calling, they responded to that Dragon perfectly. Gambit were a little bit out of position. They didn't have the numbers tightly knit. And of course, Nukeduck was caught up. Now, Vander is in trouble.
Well, is he? That's the question. Wild Growth does go down. Vander's stun will proc off in a moment. It's going to be a Fury that goes down, and now Edward's in trouble. He's up against an AD carry. This time he's not playing as Kennen. Oh! Eddie, you sneaky little bugger, flashes through, throws down that Ignite and gets himself the kill on Vander. Worth.
Very well played by Eddie to make the best of a bad situation. I felt that Vander had been caught up, but he was playing the perfect bait right now. He managed to keep Fury and Edward in place, landed a full channel on that Soul Shackles, and thanks to the Bloodthirster and Pickaxe, we've seen Saliva grabbing himself 2 kills in that situation. Edward was able to flash over. Now there's no mana for Saliva to get away. Look for Deathmark. Nukeduck, can he catch him?
Well, was he going to wait for the Living Shadow? No, not going to go in for it. Had got flash, could have gone Deathmark, could have gone in. There's plenty of wards down. Not too sure why he didn't pull the trigger.
So Nukeduck didn't have boots, so he couldn't get in range. And remember that the Deathmark now leaves a shadow at the point of casting. It doesn't actually chase you there. In addition to that, I don't think that Nukeduck was aware, or maybe he knew, that barrier could have been available. So to 100-0 without being able to get a full shadow burst down, probably the smarter choice. But again, we're seeing the Z pickup. 20 minutes in, Nukeduck has done nothing. He really hasn't made an impact. We've seen no death marks, we've seen no fights. He's even on farm, which is great. And now Xazus in a little bit of trouble.
Well, Xazus is going to get focused on. He's going to have a spider and a dragon on his backside. He has got Subjugate already used. He's going to try and run away from this one, but he's going to get taken so low. He's not gone down yet and gets away. Would you believe it?
Xazus was able to get all of that regen from the Frozen Domain, which increases his percentage healing. The Subjugate continues to drain after the initial cast, and the Blade of the Ruin King just allowing him to get out cleanly. A little bit unfortunate there for Gambit. They threw everything at it. While all that was happening, Overpower was able to grab himself a kill on Edward. We didn't quite catch that one on screen, but ROCCAT 6 kills to 2, 2,500 gold lead, and in a pretty good position right now.
Let's take another look at this one. Edward in the jungle up against Jankos.
Oh, this is a little bit troublesome. That is so much damage coming down from the Mega Inferno Bomb, and Jankos actually didn't even flash for that kickback. Just managing to safeguard over to a ward, kicking Edward in play. And, you know, yes, Gambit got a lot of vision, but it wasn't worth giving up that kill in that situation.
No, completely caught out of position. Fury pushing his mid lane. He may take the turret down here. Jankos can't defend this one. Edward's in there, but look at Saliva and Vander coming down the side. They did catch out. Just Alberto showing himself, and they will take that turret down. So Gambit pull ahead in the lead in turrets, 2-1.
So they've got pretty good rotation here from Gambit, but they've just given up too many kills while trying to make it happen. 2 towers lead. All of the wards now on the red side is going to allow Gambit to continue to invade. They're diving Xazus.
They're diving on Xazus, and they're going to try and get on towards him. Alberto comes around. He's tanked a little too much damage, and Xazus happy to tank that one out, but they are leaving Zoro0 all alone in that top lane right now. He's just free farming.
Now we'll see how ROCCAT decide to respond to this. Thanks to the fact that their Bloodthirst is fully stacked for Saliva and his Last Whisper, they are going to shred this tower so quickly. Yes, they gave up some damage and some presence in the bottom lane, but as it stands right now, Jankos seems to be defending fairly well, and they managed ROCCAT even out the tower score in the mid lane.
Well, Zoro0 continues to push, continues to farm, starting to grow a bit of an advantage in this top lane. He's a top lane player that many members, professional players, rate very highly. We'll see how it works out for him, because as it is, he continues to passive farm, and you know, we do see Nukeduck in that mid lane kind of not really doing a great lot still. He's just tried to go for that one single fight. That's actually the first ultimate we've seen from him in 23 minutes.
And it was on arguably the most difficult person to try kill. We did see him throw down the Deathmark. I think maybe Nukeduck had assumed Alberto was closer than he actually was, because by the time the Deathmark had popped and Nukeduck had been tanking the tower, Alberto arrived and it was too late. What I do like from ROCCAT is they're leaving Lee Sin to farm. He's managing to defend that top lane tower. Zoro can't necessarily stick to Lee Sin long enough, thanks to the fact that Lee Sin's got that Dragon's Rage to get rid of him. And as it stands, ROCCAT garner themselves an advantage. They've got the middle and bottom towers down. It's going to allow them to get deep wards and maybe even get better control of the Dragon Pit. and we've been seeing Gambit try to get control of Rocket's red buff in that top lane area. As it stands, Rocket's strategy is working a little more effectively.
Yeah, while this is all happening, of course, let's not forget Overpower now 3-0. Got himself the Zhonya's, got himself the Void Staff, and that Spirit the Spectral Wraith very early on with a blue pot in his bag now, ready and waiting to go. I feel that Rocket are waiting to pull a trigger on something.
They're not even waiting. Look at the mid lane. There's so many members. Xazus realizes that Deathmark's not a big threat for him. He's challenging Nukeduck.
He's going back in once again. He's got the Subjugate available, pops it down. Is it going to be enough? Xazus taken very low. This could be Nukeduck's first kill. The Ignite running, it should be, and Nukeduck takes it down. What advantage was gained from Rocket? I'm not sure, because Zora Zero is closing in and Rocket in the mid lane.
Yeah, Xazus ran straight into the shadows. Had the Deathmark been thrown down and Xazus backed away sooner, he wouldn't have eaten all of that additional shadow splash damage. Unfortunately for Xazus, he maybe overestimated his strength right now. We do see the rest of Rocket grouped in the mid lane. In comes Zoro from the background. This could be a fight. If Zoro decides to use that Dragon's Descent, it's going to be a 4-on-4 as Nukeduck split pushes.
They're happy to take the pressure on towards them. They're pushing in towards it. Zoro Zero still just lingering off the side, waiting time. Nukeduck's coming in from the side now. Rocket realized the danger of the situation. They're finally backing off.
That's actually smart play from Zoro. Even though he didn't pick the fight, he forces Rocket to back away. Nukeduck has started himself off this dragon. Living Shadow is available to get over the wall, and I think he's going to need to do it. He can't run the risk of being caught out. Piltover, not this time.
Not quite going to catch it out. No smite used though, actually. It was just simply Jankos getting it with basic attack, so it was possible. Blue buff going to get taken by Overpower. There was a tower taken, of course, in that bottom lane, so Gambit continuing to keep the pressure on. They've taken down more towers than Rocket in the lane phase.
So I'm pleasantly surprised at the fact that Nukeduck got that kill on Xazus. I had actually assumed going into that fight that Xazus was going to be able to deal with Nukeduck, but the fact that Nukeduck can kill him right now means that Gambit needs to make use of that presence. Go back to the split pushing, leave Zoro in the top lane, throw Nukeduck back down in the bottom lane, and whoever tries to challenge them is going to have a very difficult time. Xazus runs straight over a trap, and the rest of Rocket are sieging the mid tower. Once again, Zoro looking for the flank, looking to come in from behind, but look how low the tower is.
He's going to be too late on that flank because that tower has already gone down. Salva doing the final shots with Overpower alongside him. Zoro Zero way coming in behind them. They're going to try and track and descent across 4 members of Rocket. I'm not too sure that's a wise idea.
Yeah, Alberto's a little bit far away. We do see Zoro Zero is backing away. Nukeduck may be able to catch onto Overpower on the retreat. But again, the power of that burnout's very good. Even a max range Dark Binding can't really be followed up by Rocket. He's simply too far away.
Yeah, they're just keeping him at bay. They're going to catch out towards him. Zoro Zero, you're going to have to flash away from this one. The explosive pack didn't quite land. Mega Inferno Bomb didn't land either. Xazus was chasing in it. Instead, they're just going to take the blue.
Yeah, so Zoro Zero gets out with his life, taking too much poke there from Overpower. We actually seen both Edward and Zoro Zero being just dropped down by those bouncing bombs over and over. Rocket have decided to rush down this bound. They have walked over a ward, so Gambit are aware of it, but they know that Zoro's not there, and Overpower's just running interference. Nukeduck is going to have to go in very quickly. Baron's down to less than half.
Alberto's got to run in, but he's been caught out by Dark Binding. He's going to go down. There's nothing he can do about it. That is the jungler gone, and this is desperate times for Gambit. They could be losing out on this Baron. I don't see anything they can do about it. Rocket secure it.
And that's the power of the Morgana. As long as that Dark Binding does actually connect, it allows Rocket to peel away, grab themselves that kill. It's going to be a safe Baron. They've now got a 4,000 gold lead. They're even on towers. But thanks to the Baron buff, if Rocket play the siege game even further, that is in trouble.
Oh, no, he's not. He's just going to back straight away from that one. The pop comes out, not enough. Black Shield will save the day. I tell her why. No magic damage on towards him as it stands. Gambit are being pushed back. You know, this is something we talked about right at the start. The pressure, the teamwork from Rocket is just forcing Gambit in all sorts of trouble. A team of solo players.
Yeah, at this point in time, even though Gambit have had a few good plays, Rocket have been able to just respond. They grabbed that Baron, even though Vander was forced so incredibly low. Thanks to that bonus hit points that he's got from the Sightstone and the Kindle Gem, he was able to survive Nukeduck's burst. And unfortunately for Gambit, if nobody is being popped by Nukeduck's Zed, there's not a lot of presence that they can put down. They're going to have to rely back on the split pushing. Look, Shyvana top lane, Zed bottom lane. We're going to see this for the rest of this game.
Well, Xazus pushing on towards Zoro Zero was fairly ineffective in the previous matchup. Zoro Zero will certainly keep pushing back on towards Xazus. Who's got the power this time around? Xazus doesn't feel like he has it. Instead, Zoro Zero forces him away, but it's all well and good to just be stronger and say, hey, I won my lane. but it doesn't help if you're not involved in the team fights.
Yeah, I think advantage in this fight right now would be for Zoro0. The fact that he's got the Sunfire Cape completed, a Kindle Gem, and he was fighting against Blade of the Rune King and the makings of Aranduans, Xaxus is actually a little bit behind as far as gold is concerned. If you actually look at it, Xaxus is sitting on 1,800 gold right now. He hasn't actually gone back to buy in quite a long time. So we'll see what he eventually upgrades. It's going to be that Aranduans. If we go back to items, we see an item. I'm going to go on a limb and say this is the first time we've seen this in competitive play, definitely in the LCS. The Ohm Wrecker has been picked up for Overpower. For those of you that don't know, the Ohm Wrecker is going to prevent a turret from attacking for a couple of seconds. So when Rocket decided to tower dive and pick fights, you just turn that turret off for a little bit, advantage Rocket.
Yeah, I don't recall any game ever seeing that for... Well, since release. I don't recall anyone playing it in solo queue, let alone anything else. Interesting pickup. Overpower always pulling out new builds. Oh, Dark Binding not quite landing on towards Edward, quickly speeding himself up to get away from that one. But right now, ROCCAT are just invading the jungle of Gambit, and there's not really a lot they're doing about it.
I want to see how this item actually works for ROCCAT. I feel like it's a little bit of understanding that if ROCCAT tower dive, the communication and the difficulty of dealing with the tower dive is so much harder on a mixed team. It's much more difficult to prioritize targets, to call, and to be effective in defending those. So ROCCAT may just try to take advantage of it. They know their strengths right now. They've grouped up once again in this mid lane, as they've done many, many times this game already. And you just see Xaxus split pushing because he's got teleports.
Yeah, just keeping on pushing that bottom lane. Top lane's now going to get driven in once again. You see Gambit having to rotate. They're going to try and quickly push out that mid lane while they leave that area. But that's going to leave them a little bit more exposed once again as that wave comes in. Zoro0, no Dark Binding, catching on towards him. Salva gets another couple of shots on towards that tower. Every time they do this rotate, they just get themselves that little bit more advantage. Half the hit points taken off it. Xaxus is being forced away, being wild in that bottom lane by Nuke, but this is the top lane turret. Gone down.
Gambit don't want to pick a fight. They know they're behind. Oh, Fury's in trouble!
Mega Inferno Bomb catching along with that culling forces Fury away, and now they could use that Ohm Wrecker. We'll see if it works out. They don't even need it. They're just going to take the inhibitor turret down on the road. They're going to catch on towards Edward. He just gets destroyed where he stands, and that's an inhibitor picked up by ROCCAT.
ROCCAT just brute forced their way. Now Fury's in a little bit of trouble. They've caught Alberto.
Alberto's dead. He's going down. Jankos comes in. Big kick to the face. Finishes that one off, and Salva, well, he's just a wrecking crew right now. Down the bottom lane, we do see Xaxus going down, but to what effect? Who cares? Nuke, you got to kill. Great, but the rest of your team, you're losing the base. There's the Ohm Wrecker. They're going to finish it off. Zoro0 comes around. They're trying to buy some time on there, but they just walk away.
That was a very good satchel charge there from Overpower, saving the life of Salva by knocking away Zoro0. Got rid of him from the sideline. The Ohm Wrecker allowed ROCCAT to put some damage down on the tower. It is a 2-minute cooldown before it'll be available again. But ROCCAT, thanks to having the Baron and thanks to being ahead in the game, were able to just force Gambit away from the tower. The long-range poke that they've got with the Morgana Dark Bindings and the Ziggs bouncing bombs prevented Gambit from defending both that top inner and top inhibitor turrets.
It's now a 5-0-2 Salva. We talked about how we don't really hear a lot from him. Maybe it's time we do, who knows. 4-0-2, of course, for Overpower as well, pulling out that Ohm Wrecker. First time we saw it used, didn't really have a great effect because Zoro0 popped that ultimate to keep them at bay. But again, it's ROCCAT in control right now. They have a near 10,000 gold lead, 6 towers to 3, Baron up in 2 minutes. That's going to be the next focus.
It gets so much more difficult for Gambit to win team fights now. There's a Guardian Angel on Xaxus who has died twice now to Nuke. So GA is going to allow him to come back to life and potentially lifesteal some of the HP back. We see a Quicksilver Sessions on Salva, and Overpower's had that Zhonya's Hourglass for a while. So the number of targets that Nuke can successfully kill and have a positive impact with is way less. Gambit waiting in the wins. They've got a good numbers advantage, but they took too long. They didn't initiate. They didn't have the information. There's no wards. They didn't know that Overpower's away, and they've only just got vision on Xaxus. Now Vander's going to be dead.
Vander's dead, or is he? They're going to go in for him. They're going to throw everything at him, but they could turn his back around on towards Nuke. He tries to go in. Alberto goes aggressive. Jankos is in the hole, catching just glancing off his backside. Eddie eating some mines there. But really, what do they get from it? One support.
Yeah, at this point in time, Gambit needs to do that a bunch more. They need to get way more of those kills, and look at that damage from the bouncing bomb. That is so much burst.
Mega Inferno Bomb, well, Culling not quite landing on towards Fury there. He's just going to be wishing he could, but instead the teleport comes in. They're going to come around the side, and here's Xaxus that climbs in towards it. They catch on towards Nuke. Is it going to be enough? Double kill picked up by Overpower. Zoro tries to go aggressive, trying to catch on towards them. And as it is, will he be going down? He's going to go towards Sullivan. Can he get the kill? The shield comes out. The barrier bait. He does not get the kill. The regen from the Baron buff, which just wore off about 2 minutes ago, actually, until a light. It was just lifesteal from the Bloodthirster that was doing the job. Meanwhile, the Nexus turrets are falling, and ROCCAT are rolling through the base.
20 seconds on the clock and so much damage available for them. ROCCAT just own Wrecker down the turret, grab themselves another inhibitor. Nukeduck's going to try to defend. His death mark is up, but there's no way he can stop 4 members of ROCCAT. The rest of the team, they're on the Nexus turret, and Nukeduck is going to go down shortly.
And ROCCAT will take themselves another victory, ladies and gentlemen. It's now 5 games on the trot as they take down Gambit in pajamas once again. And they really have separated themselves at the top of the league. 10 wins, 3 losses now. They are clear from anyone else getting close to them. They are going to be #1 at the end of this week, regardless of what happens.
I'm impressed that ROCCAT decided not to wait. You know, they had the composition, they could have gone to late game, won it in team fights, but they decided they didn't need to. They sieged the mid lane multiple times. They forced Nukeduck to respond to the split pushing of Xaxus, and Nukeduck did well in dealing with Xaxus, but they didn't necessarily garner them any sort of advantage. Unfortunately, in order for Gambit to have won the game, they needed to have won the lanes.
Well, they have got Veggie as their coach now, so maybe celery was required. So ROCCAT, they picked themselves up yet another victory. It's something we're starting to get used to seeing here, and honestly, they're a team that are working so well together. You know, we talked about at the start the fact that they are just going to go even in lanes, which they did. They were happy to just sit back, play it patiently, and once it came to the team fight, boy, do they pull the trigger.
Yeah, and the thing is, because of the fact that Gambit didn't have a composition that had, once again, a very powerful engage, they were relying on Shyvana to jump in from the back, wild growth everybody up and be a disruptive force. That never happened, because by time 0-0 was trying to do that, they were down a Baron, they were down about 6k gold, and they weren't able to affect the team fights that they were looking for.
So you see ROCCAT getting themselves prepared. They have another game coming up tomorrow, but what a momentum they've got now. You know, the fact that we talked about, these guys went back to Poland, they had themselves a break, and maybe about rest and relaxation instead of focusing hard, training hard. You know, it's something that some of these teams have talked about, the burnout effect that you can get.
It's very important. And what I like about it is in their first game back, we see Ziggs, we see another unique item, a unique approach to the game. I don't think Omrika had much of an impact,
no,
if at all, really. But the theory was good. You know, against a team that is going to struggle to have communication, struggle to have team fights, if you disable that turret when you are ahead and it allows you to finish games quicker, many other teams could learn from that mindset.
Well, fantastic stuff, of course. This is now 2 matches we've seen, 2 more to go. So far, Millennium going down to the Copenhagen Wolves in a very long game, it's safe to say.
Yeah, definitely.
Meanwhile, ROCCAT, you know, much quicker calculated player. Anything you saw in that game that really impressed you, you know, from either team really, you know, the fact that this is 4 members, 4 substitutes, they still managed to pull off a couple of kills that give them to work well.
What I liked from Gambit in Pajamas is their low-level decision-making. They invaded blue, it was very clear, it worked out for them. They donated their blue to 0-0. They had a plan. They wanted to steal away the first red buff from ROCCAT. Unfortunately, not everybody was on the same page. Alberto went in for red early, 0-0 was forced low in the team fight, and Nukeduck got there late, so first blood was given up. And from then on, the strategy of invading and controlling an area of the jungle just didn't pan out, and you could see the whole strategy stalling. So that's why Nukeduck went bottom, and he had some good moments, but unfortunately, if your Gambit doesn't pay off for Gambit, it's not going to work.
It's not going to work. We're going to take a brief break while the next 2 teams take to the stage. And when we return, we'll be hearing from Yankos from ROCCAT. Then the Super Hot crew will be looking to continue their sizzling streak against Fnatic team, who are desperate for a win. They do not want to go 0-6, ladies and gentlemen. Stay tuned for that one.
Gambit don't want to pick a fight. They know they're behind. Oh, Fury's in trouble.
Mega Inferno bomb catching along with that Cully forces Fury away, and now they could use that home record. We'll see if it works out. They don't even need it. They're just going to take the inhibitor turret down on their own. They're going to catch on towards Edward. He just gets destroyed where he stands, and that's an inhibitor picked up by ROCCAT.
ROCCAT just brute forced their way. Now Fury's in a little bit of trouble. They've caught Alberto.
Alberto's dead. He's going down. Yankos comes in. Big kick to the face, finishes that one off, and Sullivan